start and see what happens. It's the very end happening now. So the Buddha says next, he says, possessing this aggregate of noble virtue, this noble restraint of the faculties, and possessing this noble mindfulness and clear comprehension, he resorts to a secluded resting place, the forest, the root of a tree, the mountain, the ravine, the hillside cave, a charnel ground, a jungle thicket, an open space, a heap of straw. So, I think what the interesting point here, you see what's happening here, is that you are resorting to a secluded resting place. That means that is the kind of the cue that tells you that now is when meditation really begins, right? This is kind of the cue here. All these words means that he's moving on to do his meditation practice. And of course the point here is that it's only really when you have all these other factors together that you are really ready for meditation. So the idea of meditation, the way it is talked about in the suttas, is really something quite profound, right? You really have to have your act together before you can meditate properly. You have to have all those other factors have to be there, and then meditation becomes possible. A lot of the things that go by the name of the meditation today in the world would not really be acceptable to the Buddha as meditation practice. You have to be quite pure. You have to have abandoned most of your defilements already through sense restraint. You have to have quite a pure heart before meditation becomes possible. And of course the reason for that is very obvious. As long as you have lots of defilements, as long as you have ill will and desire, the mind is going to be all over the place, right? It's going to follow the desires, it's going to follow the ill will. It's not going to be able to stay in the present moment. The whole point of meditation practice is to be able to stay in the present moment without wavering back and forth between all these defilements. And this is one of the reasons why people often use too much willpower in meditation practice, because they've got too many defilements. The only way that you will be able to stay in the present if there are lots of defilements there is to use willpower, right? People get this thing they call samadhi headaches and this kind of thing. So samadhi headache is too much willpower, right? It's like, forcing yourself. And it means, it's the wrong way, you know? It means that you are practicing meditation through willpower instead of looking at the real cause of the problem. The real cause of the problem is not enough purity yet in your heart. You need to purify yourself more. So it's very useful to remember this because it shows you, it gives you an idea of what you have to do to actually make meditation work. If it isn't working, you can look at the sequence and try to figure it out. So now we are moving on into the area of meditation. And again, if you think back to the Noble Eightfold Path, we have seen the right view, the right intention, all the virtue factors. And for the last number of hours, we have been talking about right effort, right? All of these things that we're talking about is really about right effort, how to purify your mind. And now, finally, we're coming to Samma Sati, the right mindfulness. This is what is starting now at this particular point. So meditation is beginning. Okay. And one of the other things that you will see here is that real meditation practice usually happens in a secluded resting place, right? When you're far away, you go to a retreat center somewhere which is outside of the city, outside of the busy life. That's where the real meditation happens. If it is going to go deep, if it's going to be a deep meditation practice. Okay, so what happens next is as follows. On returning from his alms round, after his meal he sits down, folding his legs crosswise, setting his body erect, and establishing mindfulness before him. Abandoning covetousness for the world, he abides with a mind free from covetousness. He purifies his mind from covetousness. Abandoning ill will and hatred, he abides with a mind free from ill will, compassionate for the welfare of all living beings. He purifies his mind from ill will and hatred. Abandoning sloth and torpor, he abides free from sloth and torpor, recipient of light, mindful and fully aware. He purifies his mind from sloth and torpor. restlessness and remorse. He abides unagitated, with a mind inwardly peaceful, and he purifies his mind from restlessness and remorse. Abandoning doubt, he abides having gone beyond doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states, wholesome qualities. He purifies his mind from doubt. Okay. So I'm sure you recognize this thing straight away as the 5 hindrances, right? You can see that right away this is what it is all about. This is about purifying your mind from the 5 hindrances. And it is quite interesting that the 5 hindrances only occur now on the path. It only occurs towards the very end when meditation starts to become profound, right? At this point we'll actually abandon the 5 hindrances. And what this means, the reason why it comes so late, is because what we are dealing with here are very refined manifestations of the hindrances. The coarse manifestations we have already dealt with previously. So when the Buddha talks about the abandoning of the hindrances, he is referring to the very last remaining defilements of the mind. That is what it means to abandon the 5 hindrances. All the coarser stuff has been abandoned a long time ago. And what is also interesting about this is that it's only at this point that we start to talk about the 3 other hindrances. The hindrances of sloth and torpor, which is like tiredness and dullness of the mind, right? The restlessness and doubt. This only comes in at this very last stage of meditation practice. Very often we find people asking questions about how do I overcome restlessness, how do I overcome tiredness in my meditation. But the point is that this is not something you really have to worry about until very, very close to attaining real samadhi, when the meditation already is going very well. That is the point when these other hindrances actually matter. Before that, what we have to focus on is the desire and the ill will. That is the problem until this point. And that is why when you think back to what we have looked at so far, it is precisely that, right? We're looking at the sensory strength, which is about desire and ill will. And only at this point, when the mind is already very peaceful, when you're able to stay in the meditation object, do we have to worry about these other hindrances. So this is what comes out quite clearly to me in the gradual training. Don't be too concerned about these other hindrances. Don't be too worried if you're tired. Don't be too worried if you're restless. If these things happen to you in meditation, it means what you should worry about is basically the desire and the ill will. Because these are the things that ultimately cause both the dullness and also the restlessness. That's where you need to focus. And only at the very end, when the meditation starts to go well, do you have to worry about all the 5 hindrances. Until then, you can just leave them to one side. That's a very useful piece of advice to keep in mind, because often I think we focus on the wrong things. When we focus on the wrong things, it blocks you from making proper progress. It's the desire and the ill will that are the real problems, and they carry the other hindrances with them very often. So, what does it mean then? What does it actually mean? What does it mean that we abandon these things, right? It doesn't say here how to abandon these things. It just says that we abandon them. So what about the how? The how is obviously important. And to understand the how this is done, we have to recognize what actually is going on here. Where are we on the path of practice? And you may perhaps recognize this phrase at the very beginning there of paragraph 18, which says that holding his legs crosswise and setting his body erect and establishing mindfulness before him. This phrase is the same phrase that you see at the beginning of the Anapanasati Sutta. Anapanasati Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 118, is basically the practice of mindfulness of breathing, and it has exactly the same opening phrase that you see here. So what all of this is about, this whole paragraph about abandoning the hindrances, is basically a paragraph about meditation practice. Specifically, it's about Anapanasati, how to watch your breath. So that is how we abandon these things, right? It's basically about watching the breath. We have a mind that at this point is so pure that you're able to stay with the breath this is the point of all these preliminary exercises. Your mind is basically in the present moment, and you're able to be aware of your breath. And the final hindrances, the little remaining things that are still present in your mind, this is what is abandoned through the process of anapanasati. You don't have to do very much. All you have to do is stay with the breath. And if you just stay with the breath, the defilements will tend to disappear all by themselves. So it's really quite simple. And this is what is meant here by the value of these defilements. Just the ability to stay with the breath, to practice the mindfulness of breathing. That's really all it is. So, which is very useful again, because it simplifies the whole practice, and you understand what you have to have, what has to be done. But let's just look very briefly at the initial sentence here at the beginning of this paragraph. After his meal, right, so he folds his legs crosswise, and this is the reason why people often say you have to sit on the floor, you have to cross your legs, otherwise you can't meditate. It's because of this kind of phrase in the suttas, right? So it becomes like, if you don't sit on the floor, you're not doing proper meditation. But the point, of course, here is that the idea with the cross-legged position is that was the way people often sat in those days. It was natural for people. It was easy for people to sit like this. Just as for us, most of the time it's easy to sit on a chair. So it doesn't mean that you have to sit this way. It's supposed to be where people sat. There's a couple of places in the Vidya where people said they couldn't find any comfort unless they were sitting cross-legged, right? So for them that was a natural posture. And also it is quite a steady and good posture. It was natural for you. So this is basically, I think, the main reason why this is put in here. It doesn't mean there's some kind of magic, some kind of supernatural power you get because it was like it. So please do what feels comfortable. Remember, the purpose of the body in meditation practice is to get rid of it, so it's not in the way, right? The body, if anything, is just a problem you want to get out of the way. And that's why I said during the guided meditation, you know the body is right when it fades into the background. You want the body to disappear, to fade into the background, not to be important anymore. And when the body fades away, that is the right kind of body. If you feel the body too much, it usually means it's uncomfortable. It's tense, it's painful, whatever. When the body kind of fades away, that is the right kind of body. So this is what matters. The posture is not so important. What matters is that the body can disappear, and then you can focus on the mind, right? That is what meditation is all about. The ability to mind to be present, the ability of the mind to focus on the meditation object. That is what we want to encourage. So get the body out of the way here, then you're doing the right thing here. I know that in some teaching they teach about watching the painful feelings and things in the body, but unless you have already some good samadhi and some good, it's going to be very hard to watch those painful feelings and actually gain any benefit from that. You really have to have a bit of samadhi and mindfulness beforehand. Otherwise, you're just going to have pain and it's not going to lead anywhere. It's not going to actually have any benefits whatsoever. Right? So you've got to be very careful. Know at what stage you're at and what to do at the right stage is so important. Not kind of just do things blindly, which often does lead to problems. Okay, setting your body erect. So again, the idea here is that if you have mindfulness established, if you're already mindful, it's quite natural for the body to be straight, right? And the straight body is by itself. But again, remember that you have to do things at the right time. If your mindfulness is not already established, if your mind is not clear, if you're not really in the present moment, you feel tired perhaps or whatever it is, then if you straighten yourself up too early, then again it will cause tension and a lack of ease in the body rather than giving rise to the right thing. So sometimes when you start a meditation, just lean back against the wall and do something which just feels comfortable. And then when the mind is ready and mindfulness comes along, you will naturally tend to straighten up. It happens by itself. So remember these things. That the main point here is for the body to be at ease, right? If you find that sitting straight is too much tension because your mind is not in the right spot, then just rest first of all. Relax. First of all, relax. Always relax first. And then when you feel relaxed, when you feel at ease, then these other things will tend to come of their own accord, all by themselves. And And the last one, establishing mindfulness before him. So how do you establish mindfulness before you? There is two ways when you go on a meditation retreat or when you meditate at home. The way to establish mindfulness, just to wait in the present moment, right? You sit back and you wait. You allow things to be. You allow the tiredness of the mind to disappear, and if there is tiredness there, you allow the restlessness to die down, and then the mindfulness will gradually establish itself. And this is what you should do when you go on a meditation retreat. Often you just need to wait, and if you wait long enough, the mindfulness will start to rise over the days and over the nights. So this is the kind of the basic way of establishing mindfulness. But remember that unless the mind is already pure enough, you can only be so mindful, because the defilements will tend to drive you away from the present moment, right? So establishing mindfulness is what we do for all our practice that we do every day, all the goodness that we do, all the precepts that we keep, all the kindness that we do and compassion we do in the world. All of that is there to build up our mindfulness and move us in the direction, that particular direction. So all of this is part of this idea of establishing mindfulness. And then you will find that if you do all of these things, and when you go on a retreat, you will find that from one year to the next, your mindfulness improves, because you've been practicing the right way during the whole year. This is a wonderful thing. It's very encouraging, right? You go on a retreat every now and again, and you can see the improvement in yourself. Mindfulness becoming established, the heart being more kind, the ability to focus on the meditation object. All of these things are improving. And when you see that, it's very encouraging, because you know that you are changing your character, your mind is changing, you are developing the path. It's a very beautiful thing that happens. And then, when you sit down, then, because you have already a purity there, then all you have to do is just to allow the tiredness to disappear, allow the restlessness to kind of calm down by itself. And eventually, because the underlying qualities are good, mindfulness will arise all by itself. So we can see how this works, right? So it depends on these two things. The purity that you've established over long periods of practice, and just learning to relax and be at ease when you go on a meditation retreat. There's very little room there for willpower and forcing your mind onto the breath and these kind of things. It's all really about learning how to relax in the right way. And then, lo and behold, if you then follow the mindfulness of the breathing sutta, you follow the breath, you find that gradually you move from just watching the breath, and you become more and more peaceful, and then the joy and happiness start to rise in the mind as you watch the breath, and you become more and more peaceful gradually. And it all happens as a natural process, natural procedure, just gradually, stage by stage, these things happen. And this is the beauty of meditation when it works. You don't have to force it, you don't have to use any willpower. It's a natural process that happens all by itself. There's maybe one sutta that I should have included here, which I didn't, and that is the sutta which is called No Intention or No Will or something like that. There's a sutta in the Nikaya where the Buddha says, if you have virtue, there's no need to will, may I feel joy. If you have joy, there's no need to will, may I feel gratitude. If you have gratitude, no need to will, may I feel tranquility. And all the way up to samadhi. In other words, if the basic things are established, willpower is redundant. You don't need to will anything at all. It just happens as a matter of course, right? And that is the ideal kind of meditation. When all you do is just sit down and you just wait patiently. And as you wait patiently, the joy, the happiness just arrives, right? Isn't that a wonderful thing? You sit patiently, wait for the joy to come. And then, when the joy comes, then the tranquility comes, when the tranquility comes, the happiness comes, and then the samadhi comes, one thing after the other. What a wonderful thing that is, and that works. You don't have to strive and clench your fists and all this kind of thing. You just relax and be at ease. So that is the ideal meditation practice, and that is what is explained in the Anapanasati Sutta, and also to some extent in Satipatthana Sutta. And that is what we're seeing here. This little paragraph here on abandoning the hindrances, this is right mindfulness. This is Satipatthana. This is mindfulness of breathing. And remember, we talk a lot about Satipatthana sometimes in this in Buddhism. But remember that if you practice mindfulness of breathing, you are fulfilling Satipatthana. You don't need to do anything apart from watching the breath. That fulfills all of the Satipatthana exercises just by watching your breath. If you doubt me, you can go to the Anapanasati Sutta. That's what it actually says in the Anapanasati Sutta. You complete, you fulfill Satipatthana just by watching the breath. So again, it's much simpler than it often appears, right? Satipatthana can seem quite complex, but actually it is quite simple if you look at it that way. Okay, let's just sit maybe another 10 minutes quietly and meditation, and we'll come back to the last part afterwards. So, we have now done the first 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, and we are now coming up to the 8th one, Samadhi, right Samadhi, right purification of the mind. And when you read the Anapanasati Sutta, the Anapanasati Sutta is divided into 16 different sections. In the 12th section of the Anapanasati Sutta, the mindfulness of breathing, is called Vimochaya Chitta. And Vimochaya Chitta means to liberate the mind, liberating the mind. And liberating the mind means liberating it from the hindrances, right? Liberating from defilements. And specifically, it means entering samadhi. So the connection there between the mindfulness of breathing leading up to jhanas, to samadhi, leading up to the last factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. So when you are ready, you have done all the mindfulness of breathing, you have gone through all the bliss and all the happiness and all the peace, eventually the mind purifies, and then in that purification, this is what happens, right? So, having thus abandoned these 5 hindrances, imperfections of the mind that weaken wisdom, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters upon and acquires in the first jhana, which is accompanied by implied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. This Brahmin is called the footprint of the Tathagata, something scraped by the Tathagata, something marked by the Tathagata. The noble disciple does not yet come to the conclusion. The Blessed One is fully awakened, the Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One, the Sangha is practicing the good way. So here we can see here that we're coming to the very culmination of the Noble Eightfold, of the Dhamma, of the practice of the gradual training. First of all, you have abandoned these 5 hindrances called imperfections of the mind that weaken wisdom. Elsewhere in the suttas it says specifically that you cannot attain deep insight into the Dhamma without first abandoning the 5 hindrances. So you have to come to this state where you are on the verge of entering jhana. Ideally go through jhana itself to really suppress these hindrances, but you have to come to this point before you can really have any real insights into the Dhamma. The weak in wisdom, dubala kara, making weak. And then you are secluded from sensual pleasures. You're actually, what you are secluded from is the 5 senses. Really, the proper translation here should be secluded from the 5 senses. Now that is usually the translation which is here. It's a bit unfortunate because it doesn't really explain to you properly what is going on there. And this word in Pali here is the word karma. And the word karma has 2 aspects to it. It can mean the personal desire and what we call subjective sense pleasure, the desire that arises in the mind for sensory objects. But karma can also mean the actual sense objects themselves. It means both sides at the same time. And here we are secluded from both of these, right? But when karma is used in the plural, as it is here, the plural usually refers the reference to the sense objects, the 5 senses, and not to the personal experience of sensuality, which is the desire. So this here should really be translated as secluded from the 5 senses. And then, not only secluded from the 5 senses, but secluded from unwholesome states, right? From unwholesome qualities. And this is just a reference to the 5 hindrances again. So you get this idea now that this is what you have to do to be able to enter this very deep samadhi known as the jhanas, right? You have to be completely secluded from the 5 senses. And you will notice that what happens in your meditation practice, that as your mind becomes more peaceful, as your meditation progresses, the senses start to become less and less prominent, and it kind of disappears, and we fade into the background more and more. And this is a sign that the mind is becoming peaceful. And eventually, the senses kind of just blocked out completely. It's a gradual process, but the senses become less and less important. And it goes together with the happiness and joy. It's a very pleasant experience when this happens. It's not scary at all. Some people think, whoa, this is scary. It's not scary at all, it's beautiful. You find all these disturbances gradually moving away, gradually becoming peaceful and happy instead. And this is how profound it is. The five senses are completely gone, right? So we're talking about very, very profound states here. And then, when they are completely gone, only then is it possible to enter upon and abide in the first jhana, which is accompanied by live and sustained thought. It's a terrible translation. It's accompanied by the movement of the mind. In the sutras, these words for vitaka vichara have different meanings. Basically, here it just means it's the very last remnant of what you might call the thinking mind, which is the movement of the mind, very slight movement of the mind that remains. Second jhana, vitaka vichara, these two factors disappear completely. So this is the very, very last thing before they disappear completely. So what is the very last remnant of thought? The very last remnant of thought is just the movement of the mind, right? Thinking is a movement. The movement is coming to its very last stage, the very ending of the movement of the mind. And then it is accompanied by the rapture and pleasure, the piti sukha, which is so important in these samadhi states. All of meditation, all of samadhi is about these things, about happiness, right? Piti and sukha. It's a very important thing to keep in mind. Meditation is not dry, it's not boring, it's not plain, it's not something which it's nice and peaceful, but that's about it. It's something beautiful, right? And something very pleasant and very happy. And you know that you're on the right track. And if you start to feel this intense sense of pleasure inside of you, a sense of rapture and joy, that is what real meditation is all about. And this is how meditation is described in the sutras. Sutta after sutta after sutta. The rising of gladness, then of piti, rapture, then tranquility, and sukha, happiness. What is all about happiness? Everything is about happiness. It's so central, and it's not the only way that you're ever going to get into a deep state of samadhi. It's by achieving, going through all this happiness and meditation. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? When you think about it like that, it's a wonderful thing. It's all about going in the direction we all want to go, achieving the things that we're all interested in achieving in life. So, that is part of this thing. And then, of course, the really, really powerful thing here is that what comes last. And this helps us to understand how deep these states of jhana actually are. Then the Buddha says this is a footprint of the Tathagata, right? What does that mean? It means that when you come to the jhana, it's like you can almost see the Buddha. Because you can see the footprint of the Buddha, you know that the Buddha must have been here. That's what it means. You're starting to understand what it means to be a Buddha. You're seeing the Buddha's footprint. Right? Very, very powerful things. This is how lofty these states are. Incredibly lofty here. You're now in the vicinity of the Buddha. You're going the same place that he has been going. That's how profound, that's how important these things are. And sometimes, you hear about people talk about jhanas very casually, and the problem is that we need to understand that when we get to this point, you're almost enlightened, right? You're very close to the Buddha. It means you've almost reached full awakening. That's how powerful these things are. These are not things to be dismissed easily. These are not things to be kind of talked about in a casual sense. This is almost equivalent to awakening itself. We're seeing the footprint of the Buddha now. We're seeing something scraped by the Buddha, marked by the Buddha. You see the mark, right? Like the elephant making a mark on the tree. This is all about the simile of the elephant we're talking about here. Elephant making a mark on the tree. In the same way, Buddha, this jhana is a mark. You know the Buddha must have been here. He must have gone through this state as well. That's what you come to understand at this point. So, very profound things. And this fits with how the that these jhanas are explained throughout the suttas, always explained in very lofty terms, and always explained together with the 4 stages of awakening and enlightenment itself. There's always these 2 categories, the 4 jhanas and the 4 stages of awakening, kind of making one grouping together. So they're almost like the same, right? You have the Sambodha Sutta, the happiness of awakening is one of the terms to explain what the jhana is. So you're getting very close to the same happiness that you have for awakening itself, right? Very profound, very deep things. So please, sometimes I'm a bit concerned that people don't understand the power of these things. And remember that on the path of meditation, there is so much beauty, so much wonderful things to happen before you even get to the jhanas, right? There's so much joy, so much happiness, so much peace, all the way on this path. And don't think just because you've got a little bit of rapture that you have a jhana already. Probably not, but it means just enjoying the beauty of meditation practice. And you go in that direction. And you think, wow, if this is what I can get in meditation, this little bit of happiness, wow, this is wonderful. I wonder what the jhana is like. Then you get even more happy. You still haven't gone to jhana. You get even more happy. You still haven't gone to jhana, right? And you think, jeepers, this must be something incredible, this experience of real samadhi. This is the point. There's so much beauty and so much wonder on this path of meditation. And you keep on moving, it's more and more powerful until eventually one day, you keep on going the right way. Everyone here has the chance and opportunity to achieve these kind of things. This is what the Buddha promises. If you practice in the right way, this is the kind of result that will arise as a consequence. And it's not difficult, right? Sometimes people think, oh, it's so hard to get into samadhi, it's so difficult, I can't do it, I've got too many defilements. It's not difficult, it just takes perseverance, it takes commitment to the path. If you've got enough perseverance, enough investigation, enough commitment to do what is required, anyone can do this. It's just that's what really matters. It's not hard, right? It's not like solving a mathematical problem or anything like that. It's just a commitment that has to be there. So that is the hard part. So, that is where I had stopped. The sutta actually goes beyond this. And the next, just to briefly tell you what happens after this. After this, you go through all the 4 jhanas, and after the 4 jhanas, you have the 3 knowledges, right? The viksha. The 3 knowledges are the recollection of the past lives, the understanding of the law of karma, and then eventually awakening itself. And just to give you some understanding of how important these things are. Some of the people I mentioned the other day dismiss the idea of rebirth and say, in one day we can't believe in such stuff. But just to give you some sense of how important this is in the Buddha's teaching. The way the Buddha describes the recollection of past lives, he says it is like the dispelling of darkness and the turning on of the light, right? That's how he explains that. It's like you've been in the dark all this time, and now someone has switched on the little switch. Suddenly you can see what is going on. Light has gone on. Now you understand what this world actually is about, right? For the first time you understand this amazing kind of sequence of life, going out into the past, moving on into the future. Suddenly you see the universe, what it's like. This is what life is like. Before I was in the dark. Now the light has been turned on. Wow. And then the Buddha says the same thing for awakening itself. Awakening is the same idea. It's like the turning on the light, the dispelling of the darkness. So remembering a past life is like a small awakening prior to the main awakening itself. That's how important it is. Another way the Buddha explains it, he says it's like a small chink. You have a little chink inside the eggshell, right? If you're inside an eggshell, you can't see very much, right? You can only see a few millimeters in front of you, then the whole world is blocked out. You can't see anything there. And then the chink one day is mature enough, and it starts breaking out of the shell. It uses little claws, it uses a little beak or whatever, and it breaks out of the shell. Then, for the first time, you can see what the world is really like, right? So the difference between not seeing your past lives and seeing your past lives is like the difference between a little chink inside the shell and a chink breaking out. enormous difference, right? Suddenly we can see all now, we can see what this vast world is like. Incredibly important understanding of the Dhamma. And this is how important the idea of rebirth is in Buddhism. It's like actually understanding what the world is like. And only when you understand what the world is like, can you then follow the consequences of that and then act in the right way to solve whatever problem there might be. If you don't understand the world, if you don't understand how the world functions, you cannot solve the problems, you cannot actually do anything at all. You're kind of blocked from doing anything useful. And then at the end comes the awakening experience itself, which basically is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the ending of the defilements. And then what do you know when you have awakened? What is the one thing that you know when you reach final awakening? You know that birth has ended. There is no more life in the future. That is what we know when awakening happens. It's the one thing that we know. Again, it shows the importance of these things. So, it's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so let me just read one last sutta. This is the very last sutta on this thing. It's called the Gautama Sutta. And it goes as follows. Very short little sutta. This is also just an extract of that. So on one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Vesali, at the Gautamaka shrine. There the Blessed One addressed the monks. Monks, I teach the Dhamma through direct knowledge, not without direct knowledge. In other words, I've seen this, I know what's going on. I'm not just telling you things out of tradition or because I've heard it from somebody else. This is what I know, right? Direct knowledge. So that's why you get faith in the Buddha. I teach Dhamma with a basis, not without a basis. In other words, I know again what I'm talking about. This is not just ill-founded stuff. I teach a Dhamma that is wonderful, or convincing, or reliable, not one that is not. Wonderful means that in Buddhism the idea of wonder is the wonder of a teaching. And when you practice this, it actually leads in the same direction. Then the Buddha says, since I teach Dhamma through direct knowledge, not without direct knowledge, since I teach Dhamma with a basis, not without basis, since I teach Dhamma that is wonderful, one that works, not one that does not work. My teaching should be acted upon. My instructions should be acted upon. It is enough for you to rejoice, enough for you to be elated, enough for you to be joyful. The Blessed One is perfectly awakened. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One. The Sangha is practicing the good path. So that is the Buddha inspiring us, right? Saying that these teachings work. They're not fanciful, they're based on real insight. And when you see that, when you understand that, you feel happy because you know that you have something really worth doing in your life, something that leads to happiness, away from suffering, something wonderful that we all have and we can all share and we can all take part in. So, that is the Buddha kind of trying to inspire us a little bit. Okay. So, we don't have that much time left, so maybe we should just go on to the questions. Is there? Yeah, should we do that? So we'll just go on to the questions straight away. I didn't kind of summarize it today. Summarize again? Yes? Okay. So that's super, is there?
Wonderful, really wonderful.
Yeah, good. Okay. So, some people were asking about Vajra 97 and the Sutta from yesterday, and the meaning of that Sutta. It's actually quite a simple Sutta. I think if you read it on your own, you can basically understand what it's about. And the idea behind that sutta, and again, it's about overcoming of defilements, right? The idea is that we understand that even through the people who are closest to us, even to our family members, even to our dearest friends, there is, of course, a high degree of happiness there, but there's also a danger, there's also the consequence of when they fall ill, when they die, when we have separation from those things that are dear to us, there's always going to be an element of suffering there, right? So wherever there is worldly happiness, there's also the opposite. There's also the worldly suffering there. Worldly suffering, worldly happiness, these always go together. And that is what the sutta shows us. So it shows us to be, even with our family members, it shows us that we don't rely on them too much. If we rely on them too much, then eventually we'll be disappointed. Eventually they will die, eventually we'll pass away. And if we rely on family members for our happiness 100%, we will suffer enormously when they die. And that's why people grieve, right? That's why there's sorrow. Oh no, my son passed away, my mother passed away, my father passed away, whatever it is. That's why we grieve so much. And when we understand this at the very beginning, that departure from our loved ones is bound to happen, and we don't grasp on so tightly, and we understand that in the end, we have to seek our happiness and our satisfaction in life somewhere else, in the Dhamma, in the practice of purifying ourselves, etc. That's really all that sutta is saying. It's a very simple sutta, but it's actually quite powerful. Sometimes I really like sometimes the simple suttas, precisely because they're easy to understand, and because the message comes through often very clearly. So I hope that is okay. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay. That's really all I wanted to do, so let's clarify that one then. Okay, now let us move on to the questions. We only have 35 minutes, so we're going to go on this one then. So, first question. Venerable, could you speak a little about how to study Buddhism? Your approach, and if there are any particular text references that are useful for inspiring suttas. Thank you so much. Certainly, the way I recommend studying Buddhism is just to start reading the suttas for yourself. And you will find that sometimes when you read the suttas, sometimes you don't understand a word of what is going on. You think, gee, what is this all about? Right? And you scratch your head and you don't know what's happening. But so what you need is to start in the right place. And the best place, the place that I always recommend people to start, is go to a book that is called In the Buddha's Words. Have you heard about that book? Is that available, Dr. Wee, at the BGF Center? Yes? Okay. In the Buddha's Words, a translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi, and it is anthology, it's a collection of suttas, and it's organized according to groups and pattern, and it is introduced by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, and there's also lots of notes in there, in the Buddha's Words. It's a very, very nicely done book, and it's an excellent introduction to the Buddha's teaching. It takes us straight to the suttas, but in a comprehensible and understandable way. And then, if you still have questions, then you can ask whenever I come to town, which is a bit 2 or 3 years ago. Now, just ask anyone who's around, right? There's always somebody who's knowledgeable. There are many people here who are very knowledgeable about the suttas. You can ask Dr. Willie if you like, he's very knowledgeable about the suttas. Or anyone else who has the knowledge that is required. And then you will come to a deeper understanding of these things. And then gradually you grow, and you gain a deeper appreciation. One of the great things is to go to a sutta retreat like this. It gives you a chance to get a bit more insight into things. This is one type of sutta retreat. Another type that I like to do is actually to do a real meditation retreat proper. With the teachings on the meditation retreat, to let those teachings actually be the suttas themselves. So having a real meditation retreat and actually using the suttas as a teaching guide for meditation practice. That's also very nice. Because when you are meditating, you feel peaceful, you feel refreshed. The suttas sink much more deeply into the heart. And when the suttas sink in more deeply, you become more peaceful. Meditation goes better, right? It's a wonderful thing. Kind of real rolls on, as they say. So, that is what I recommend. And once you have read that book, then you can move on to the Nikayas, the Majjhima Nikaya, or whatever else that we have. It's also nice sometimes to read little texts that are inspiring. So get the Dhammapada, write it down. Sometimes you don't understand Buddhism so much reading Dhammapada, but it's still very inspiring, very beautiful, and you feel inspired. Inspiration is very important on the Buddhist path. Inspiration is what drives you to do what is right, to do what is good, and to practice your meditation practice. So inspiration is important, understanding the Dhamma is important. Both of these things can be gotten by reading the suttas. Okay. Dear Ajahn, can you please advise if you conduct sutta classes online or have recorded sessions online that can learn the suttas from? Yes, the Buddhist Society of Western Australia, I don't know if we have a very good website, which if you just Google on the Buddhist site of WA, something like Google Ajahn or whatever, you will get to that website very quickly. And yes, there's lots of recorded material there. Lots of sutta classes, lots of ordinary talks, all kinds of things. And some of those sutta classes I have done. Most of them have been done by Ajahn Brahmali. So please go there. There's literally hundreds of sutta classes, I think, on that website. So it's quite useful, especially in the beginning, to actually listen to someone who has more experience. It gives you a little bit of, you kind of get a more direct understanding what the suttas are about. Initially, it can be a bit daunting, but after a while, it starts to kind of come together for you. Also good, and also what I recommend is listen to Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. Bhikkhu Bodhi is today maybe the most important of all the translators of the suttas into English. He's an excellent translator. He's very, very careful. I have worked with him a little bit myself. I know that he's so careful in the way he approaches the sutta translations. He's been translating the Anguttara Nikaya and recently came out. He spent 7 years just translating the Anguttara Nikaya. 7 years, right? He doesn't kind of mess around. He does his research and does what is required to produce good translation. Very reliable. Of course, as with anything, you can always argue about little points, but generally speaking, very reliable. And also his English is very good, so he writes very good English. Sometimes you get kind of dodgy English translations. His command of the English language is very good. His Pali, his understanding is very good, and his Dhamma understanding is very good. So those three together makes it very, very powerful to read his translations. So yes, you can listen to him. He has lots of sutta classes available online. He's a little bit academic, I have to warn you, when he talks very slowly, like a professor, right? One word at a time, very, very slowly. You have to be a bit patient to listen to Bhikkhu Bodhi. If you have the patience, the information you can get is also very useful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay. Okay, Sadhu times 3 to Ajahn. Excellent sutta workshop. First time I attend this type of workshop, and the break in between is refreshing. Can we have more time in future workshops? Thank you. Okay, well, it's really up to you. If you invite me back to KL, then if I have the time, which I'm always happy to set time aside for this kind of things, I'm always happy to come around and teach suttas. And it's very nice to be a Buddhist monk. One of the wonderful things and the benefits of being a Buddhist monk when you travel around the world, you meet so many nice people, right? This is the wonderful thing. A sincere Buddhist is always a nice person. So when I come here, I get a very good feeling when I come here. I get this feeling of a warm and kind community of people. That is always very encouraging. And it's the kind of place it's always nice to come back to. So it's really up to you. So if you invite, what happens often is that now you're very inspired perhaps, and in 2 weeks' time you completely forgotten who I am. Sometimes it works like that. But in principle, yes, I'm very happy to come back again. Okay. Next question. To my understanding, Vipassana meditation was introduced from Myanmar. In some retreats, the teacher teaches only Vipassana, while some emphasize both Vipassana and Samatha. Is there any evidence in the suttas that support the teaching of Vipassana meditation? Yeah, it's actually a very good question. The word Vipassana in Pali means something like clear seeing. And the way that I understand the sutta is that basically Vipassana is a result of practicing the Dhamma. It's something which happens when you practice in the right way. Vipassana occurs. You see things clearly. The Buddha often talks about being endowed with Vipassana, right? He doesn't say you do Vipassana, you say you are endowed with Vipassana. It is like an attribute of the mind. It's something you have. When the mind is clear, when there are less defilements, you see more clearly. And that's what Vipassana is about. So the whole idea of Vipassana meditation is a fairly modern kind of invention. And it seems to me when the Buddha talks about meditation in the suttas, one of the most important things that he talks about is things like anapanasati, watching the breath, right? Anapanasati is basically an exercise which makes you peaceful and calm, but it also gives you Vipassana. And this is one of the points, is that Vipassana and Samatha are not two different kind of things, different kind of beasts. Vipassana and Samatha, calm and clear seeing, are two aspects of the mind that you develop by practicing the path. So as the path progresses, you get more Vipassana and you get more Samatha. You see things more clearly. Seeing clearly means you understand more about the three characteristics. You're not so deluded anymore. Clarity becomes established. And also, you become peaceful. And this is what happens. And the idea that somehow you are not practicing Vipassana when you're watching the breath is wrong. Even watching the breath is actually Vipassana practice, because you gain clarity, right? Clarity, clear seeing, is precisely Vipassana. When you practice your precepts, in a sense, you're practicing Vipassana because you're reducing your defilements. So the whole path is basically a path which includes both Samatha and Vipassana all the way. So, I don't think that this kind of dichotomy, this division between Samatha and Vipassana is very useful. This is what we often hear, that there is Vipassana or the Samatha way. I think it's completely misleading. The Buddha doesn't talk like that at all. Occasionally in the suttas, you hear that there is like some people have insight before they have deep samadhi. Sometimes it says you have samadhi before you have insight. But these are just a matter of degrees, right? Some people, but as a general speaking, they both go together. Okay, someone has maybe a little bit of insight slightly earlier on the path. Others have been more samadhi slightly earlier. But essentially, they go together, they move together on the path. That's really not the difference. And that's what it's all about. So let's not make this division in the Dhamma. It's not really necessary. And I think we are leading people a little bit astray when we make this kind of division. Sometimes the reason people do Vipassana practice, or where it comes from things like when you read the Satipatthana Sutta. In the Satipatthana Sutta, you have the idea of the Vedana Vipassana, the watching of feelings, right? And the idea then is that you're watching the feelings in the body, you are doing the Vedana Vipassana. That's kind of the idea. But remember, one of the things that I've been teaching you now, to even get to Satipatthana, you have this enormous amount of purification required before you. It's not an ordinary mind that can do Vedana Vipassana. If you want to watch the feelings in your body, you already have to have mindfulness very clearly established. You have to have a lot of purity inside. And then perhaps you can watch those feelings a little bit. But even then, I say, it's not the ideal way. If you want to find out the way the Buddha recommended we should do Satipatthana practice, the best example is Anapanasati. He specifically says, if you do Anapanasati, you are fulfilling the Satipatthana. So when you do the mindfulness of breathing, after a while you become very peaceful, you start to feel happiness and joy in the meditation. That is Vedana Vipassana. So that is the kind of Vedana we should investigate. That's the kind of Vedana we should see in our feeling, in our meditation. The feelings of happiness and joy. And isn't it much more fun to investigate happiness and joy than to investigate the pain in the body then? Why not go for the good stuff rather than kind of waste all this time watching all the pain? It's not actually required. And the main way, again, the Buddha talks about this, is precisely just to experience the happiness of meditation, particularly mindfulness of breathing. That's the main way of doing the contemplation of feelings, the Vedana. So, so I don't recommend it. I think a lot of people, they give up on meditation. It's too painful, it's too harsh, it's too too difficult, and I think it is sometimes unfortunate. Maybe there are some people who enjoy this kind of practice. There are some people who seem to get benefits, and if you do, great. Please continue to practice that way if you do gain benefits from it. But be careful. Make sure that you investigate that you are gaining real benefits, and if you are improving wholesome states and declining in unwholesome states, then keep doing it. But if it's not giving results, don't do it blindly. Don't just follow these methods just because someone says that this is the right way. Investigate for yourself, and then you'll make real progress on the path. Okay. Okay, Venerable Sir, further to your explanation of the gradual training that meditation is Anapanasati Sutta, does this imply that walking meditation, standing meditation, and lying down meditation are actually practice for mindfulness and clear comprehension? Sati Sampajana, thank you very much. Okay. Yes, and there is very little evidence in the sutras of standing meditation and lying down meditation. Meditation is basically two parts, that is sitting down and also walking meditation to some extent. But the main type of meditation is actually sitting meditation in the sutras. So what you are referring to here when talking about these four ways is really the four postures. The four postures which are mentioned in the Sampajanya formula, and also mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta itself. That's what they are referred to. That's what referring to there. So basically, yes, I agree. They are basically about clear comprehension. So when you are walking, or when you are standing, or when you are lying down, you have clear comprehension about what you're doing. That is, I think, the main reason why these things are in there. You can do meditation lying down, for example. It's possible. I've heard of monks who do that, and some of them gain very good results. But again, you just have to ask yourself, does it work for me? Am I getting the results? Of course, lying down makes you very relaxed, right? But sometimes that means you fall asleep. But if your mind is very clear, it can actually work. If your mind is very clear and very bright, it can work to even lie down. You just have to ask yourself, does it work? And then you can use whatever functions for you. Okay. Okay, question number 1. King Karabia commented that it is due to loss to aging, sickness, wealth, and relative that a person will go into hopelessness. Are these intentions, behavior considered as impure to go into hopelessness? They're kind of, perhaps a little bit impure, right? And because the reason is sort of, I can't do anything in life anymore, so I might as well go for it, It's not very inspiring, right? It's kind of okay, and it's good, it's still good, because it means that you understand that the Dhamma has some value, and you want to spend the remainder of your life practicing Dhamma, which of course is good. But it's even better if you have a profound understanding of the teachings, what it's really about. If you go forward because, wow, I'm going to make an end of all this suffering, and I want to experience some real happiness and contentment in life. And that is the real kind of idea. You can see the difference is quite important, because if you come from a real inspiration of the Dhamma, it is more likely that you will apply yourself and investigate and practice more fully. If you come from the fact that, okay, I'm getting old now, can't do very much in day life, okay, so I will go forward. You don't have the same inspiration, and for that reason it's unlikely that you will be able to apply yourself as well in the Dhamma. So that's why it is a little bit perhaps impure, but then again, very few people go forward 100% pure, right? 100% inspired. There's always a bit of many things coming into the question there. So it's, I think that even though someone does go forth in old age, for whatever reason, it's still a very noble thing to do. We shouldn't kind of look down upon that. That's not the right way either. It's wonderful that someone is willing to spend their life practicing the Dhamma. It's always a very good thing. Question 2. Life in the world has no shelter and no protector. Can we still seek for protection by taking refuge in the Triple Gem? You can, and you remember that the real taking of refuge in the Triple Gem is not, yes, you go to the Dhamma to ask questions, what should I be doing, how should I be practicing, but it's the practice itself that really is the protection, right? If you go to the Triple Gem and say, oh, Buddha, please protect me, I'm such a terrible sinner, can you please help me out, or something like that, then it's not very useful. But if you go to the Triple Gem to find inspiration, and you use that to practice in the right way, then it's like you are protecting. You use the Triple Gem to protect yourself by practicing the right way. Then you are atta sadhana. You are self-protected, like the Buddha said. You are atta diva, an island unto yourself, right? So the Buddha said in the Parinirvana Sutta, when the monks and nuns were saying, oh, what are we going to do? We're going to pass away. What can we do now? He says, you are your own protectors, right? So this is the important thing. Yes, we take refuge in the Triple Gem, but we recognize that really what that means is that we are actually practicing the Triple Gem. We're doing the things which are required. We're taking responsibility for our own practice, for making sure that we are safe. That is the real protection. That is what the real sarana, refuge, actually is. But yes, there is always, to some extent, we cannot rely 100% on ourselves. There's always some external authority, to some extent, that has to be there, right? This is the whole purpose of a Buddha arising in the world. There's never complete 100% self-reliance. That's also impossible. There has to be a balance. But it's better that you place your faith and place your confidence in the Buddha, in the Dhamma, and in the Sangha as a general idea that there are people in the world who are awakened. Get away from guru worship. Get away from, oh, one person is so wonderful, and this person I will follow for the rest of my life, particularly if they are a living person, because it's also very dangerous. They do something crazy, do something bad, you lose all your confidence, and it's very, very painful. I've seen it happen so many times. People getting so disappointed because their favorite teacher turns out to be a fraud or something like that. Okay. Dear Ajahn, please tell us what sort of practice can enable us to rejoice in others' success and happiness. Which sutta can you refer us to read? Thank you. Which sutta can you read about this? Not sure. Not sure which sutta, but it's just, it's just a matter of perception. You have to learn to perceive things in the right way, right? And you have to learn, instead of being jealous when other people do well, instead you think, wow, what a wonderful thing it is when other people do well. What a great, how do you feel when you do well? You feel happy, right? This other person also feels happy when they do well. So feel happy on their behalf. Isn't it great that they're doing well? And it's such a pity to feel jealous of other people when they do well. It's a kind of a wasted opportunity to be happy on other people's behalf. So all we have to do is just change your perception around a little bit and remind yourself of how you feel. And other beings are just like you. They too want to be happy in life. So, and also, it's not just that, but it's also, when I hear about people in life who come to Ajahn Grove, for example, and do a meditation within Ajahn Grove. There's so many meditation retreats in Ajahn Grove, you would believe it, like back to back, one after the other. It's a wonderful thing. And when you have lots of people going to meditation retreats, you also have quite a few people of good results, right? And whenever I hear about someone over there having results, good results while I'm doing work in the monastery or whatever, I just think, oh, it's really unfair, really bad. But instead I think to myself, wow, all these people are getting good results over there. What a wonderful thing it is. It means means that these teachings are available in the world. It means that I too, when I go back to my cutie, I too can achieve the same kind of results, because these results are available to everyone. If other people get it, it means I can get it, right? Because we are all basically the same. We all have a mind. We all have our defilements. So we all are the same. So if somebody else gets it, it means I can get it. So it should encourage you. You should feel great if other people have these things. This is the way to think, right? Or, when Ajahn sometimes talks about his meditation practice, it's very inspiring. You hear about all the kind of super duper bliss that is available to someone who has very good meditation. It's inspiring to hear that. You feel, wow, if that's available, Jesus, I would want to do the same. I want to get there with the same track, right? And this is the beauty of all that. So think like that. Think that it actually means that it's available for you too. Then you feel inspired. And then you can go to your friend and say, well done, good, I'm so happy for you that you're doing so well. Mudita, sympathetic joy. Okay. Dear Ajahn, how is metta meditation done? Please give us a general outline of the sutta. Thank you again, Ajahn, for such compassionate teaching. And then at the end here, sadhu to all the organizers and volunteers for this wonderful sutta classes. May you be blessed for such mindfulness over us participants. Forgive us if we have displeased you. Okay, so that's a very nice little thing for the end of the Sutta retreat, and somebody obviously have enjoyed themselves. We have all enjoyed ourselves, I have enjoyed myself, and it's really wonderful I think that is. So I'm sure we will all forgive each other, and I forgive all of you, and may you also forgive me for any shortcomings. When you talk a lot like I do, you always say a few stupid things, so may you forgive me for my stupid things I have said. Anyway, so let us go back to the metta meditation. How do we do the metta meditation? And it's quite hard to do metta meditation. It's quite difficult to get the feeling, not difficult, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of commitment to get the feeling of metta from arising. It's not that easy. So we have to be committed to metta. But even if you don't feel the metta, it is still good to try the metta practice, because you are learning to perceive, you're learning to look at the world in a new way, learn to understand people in a new way. And if you keep doing it over a long period of time, eventually it will start to work, because you're changing your mind, you're changing your perception of the people around you and also of yourself. So how to do it? So metta meditation is about seeing the beautiful aspects of the people around you and also in yourself. Ill will is just when you see the negative things in people around you, that's when you get angry, right? This person is so-and-so, you feel angry. So metta is the exact opposite of that. It's focusing on the beautiful aspects. And that's why we were talking the other day about the sutta of overcoming resentment, right? It was all about focusing in on the beautiful aspects of that person and then leaving out all the negative ones. So that is what you need to do. The ability to see the beauty in someone else. So that is the first thing. So start the metta meditation. Start just by reminding yourself of the beautiful qualities of people. Start by reminding yourself what it is, what it means to have these beautiful qualities in your heart. How beautiful that is. Just bring that up. Remind yourself how many people there are like that in the world, right? And when you remember that, that makes you feel happy that there are so many beautiful people in the world. Then you spread that metta out. So basically it's about wherever you are able to see the beautiful qualities in other people. It can be towards individuals, it can just be in general towards a certain direction. It can be anything. Wherever you are able to see the beautiful qualities in other people, that's where you should be spreading metta. Then you say, may you be well and happy. Right? And when you say, may you be well and happy, it's very important that it comes from your heart. You have to mean it. It can't be some kind of intellectual thing. Yeah, in theory, I think they should be well and happy, right? It doesn't work like that. No, it's theoretical. You have to mean it from your heart. You really have to wish other people happiness and well-being. And then it will have some kind of effect. So practice, try that, and then gradually you learn to see the beautiful qualities in other people. Then it becomes very powerful. Remember to have metta towards the people who are with you on retreats like this. Remember to have metta towards the members of the BGF. You get a very beautiful organization. If everyone here, everyone in the BGF has metta towards each other, you get a wonderful organization which has a lot of cohesion, a lot of sense of purpose of working together because we have kindness to each other. And it's not, remember also that metta begins with how we treat each other in daily life, how we speak to each other, how we act to each other. So start by acting with metta, start by speaking with metta, and then the meditation metta often comes as a consequence of the kindness that you have in ordinary life, right? So it's a gradual thing. You learn these things stage by stage. So, there you are. That is a little bit about metta meditation. Please give us a general outline of the sutta. Presumably you mean the sutta on metta, that's presumably what you mean. So the general outline of the metta sutta is just very simple. Not the metta, you mean the metta sutta probably. Let me not talk about the metta sutta. Let me instead talk about the sutta which describes how you practice metta meditation in the sutta. What it says is very simple. It says that you are spread metta to each of the four directions, right? To the north, to the east, to the west, and to the south. You spread the metta to the heart without ill will, with the mind that is great, which is without limits. In other words, you don't limit it to certain beings. You don't say, I'm a metta to all of these ones, but that one, no metta to that one. If you think like that, it's not really metta. So it has to be limitless, there has to be no boundaries. That no boundary metta is what is so beautiful. So, and that is all it says in the suttas. It's a very, very simple explanation. And it is a very high degree of development. It's very hard to get that degree of development. It's almost like we're talking about this jhana stages, the high samadhi stages. So you just do that gradually. And as it says there, you do it to each direction. I sometimes like to just do metta to the four directions. Because when it is four directions, it just it isn't towards anyone in particular. It's just generally towards all the good people out there. You just remind yourself of all the good people in the world, right? There's so many good people in the world. When you read the newspaper, it's terrible. All you hear about is all the badness, right? So don't read the papers. Think about real people. Real people are often very good, often have very good hearts. There's lots of good people out there, of all backgrounds, of all classes, of all economic levels, all religions, everything. And there's so many good people in the world. Think of that. People with kind hearts, right? Who are generous, who are compassionate. What a wonderful thing it is that there are so many kind people in the world. And then wish all those people well. And make an image in your mind. Then it's easier to have that sense of metta. Okay. Okay, I better go faster. We are running out of time now. So, dear Ajahn, there is a saying, a person without dreams is without soul. But to a Buddhist, dream is great and kindly advice. Okay, so it's good to have aspirations in life, right? And sometimes we use words a little bit differently. Even when you are a practicing Buddhist, you have to have some aspirations. You have to want to do the good practice. You have to want to be kind. You have to have some sense that you are moving in the right direction. So there is a little bit of desire there. You cannot be completely without desire. If you are completely without desire, it means that you can't go anywhere. You just lie in bed all day, right? And nothing happens. That doesn't work either. So you have to have a little bit of motivation that drives you on this path. So a little bit of desire is important, but it has to ideally be the right kind of desire. And that is the most important thing here. So the desire that you should have is the desire to be kind, the desire to be compassionate, the desire to be peaceful, the desire to be moral, right? This is the desire you can have. And if you practice that kind, if you have that kind of desire, it leads to the ending of desire. That is the paradox of the Dhamma, is that when you have the right desire, it actually leads to the end of the desire. And this is actually specifically talked about in the suttas, this idea that the right desire leads to the end of the desire. And when you get to the end of the path, all the desires die away, because you've already achieved the goal of the practice. So that is what it means. So yes, a little bit of dreaming has to be there, right? A little bit, but let's dream about the right things. That is the main thing. Let's have the right kind of dreams and try to avoid the bad ones. Okay. May I know whether it is a negative mindset if we're always thinking that any time we can die or pass away. Thank you, Ajahn. Is it a negative mindset? It depends on how you do it, right? If for you it is very hard to think about this, it makes you sad. It's not sitting up here. It makes you sad and despondent, and it makes you negative, it makes you feel terrible, and it makes you angry when you think about death, right? If it makes you angry when you think about death, don't think about death. The idea in Buddhism, everything in Buddhism is pragmatic, is practical. It's about whether it has the right effect or not. So what is the effect on your mind when you think about death? This is the slide slowly going down. So what is the effect on your mind when you think about death? The effect on the mind is what measures whether it is good for you or bad for you. So if the effect is that it increases the good states, and thinking about death is something you should do. If it increases the bad states, then either you have to think about death in a different way, or perhaps you shouldn't think about death at all. Maybe you're not ready to think about death. So remember this is true of everything we do on the Buddhist spiritual path. Ask yourself whether it works for you, right? Does it give good results, or does it not give good results? This is what matters. Don't just do things that any teacher says. Ask yourself whether it works. If it works, then it is the right thing. Okay, dear Ajahn, I am currently working in the financial sector, doing a lot of buying and selling of investments such as shares. I would profit gain from buying and selling considered white livelihood. I don't think that's a big problem to buy and sell shares. We're not doing anything really bad, right? We're not kind of killing anyone or anything like that. It is just one of the functions that are required to make our economy work. It's part of the economy that we have to buy and sell shares. So it's okay. I don't think you have to be too worried about that. But even then, even if you do have such a job in the financial sector, try to do it with a good heart, right? Try to do it in a good way. Think about it, okay, when I do this, I kind of make the wheels of the machinery of society turn around. I'm kind of helping out. And by doing this, perhaps I'm helping to create a bit of wealth in the world so people can be better off, Try to make it into a positive perception. Always when you have a positive perception about what you're doing, it creates more good karma and it actually makes you move forward on the path. This is one of the tricks. Always think about what you're doing. Think about the good sides of what you're doing. The good effects it has for yourself and for other people. Then it is more positive. Okay. What is the difference between jhana and samadhi? Thank you, Ajahn. Okay, samadhi is a little bit broader than jhana is a little bit more narrow. Jhana means specifically the 4 types of jhana that are explained in the suttas. There are 4 very distinct types of states of mind that you enter into. You enter into jhana, then you come out of it afterwards, like you are in this state, right? And you are there for a certain amount of time. Samadhi is a bit more broad. It's not just the jhanas that are samadhi, but also other states can also be called samadhi. For example, you can go beyond the jhanas into what is called immaterial attainments. And these are samadhi, but not jhana. There are other states of samadhi in the suttas known as the sunyata, the emptiness samadhi, where you go into a state of emptiness by focusing on the emptiness of things. There's something known as the animitta samadhi, which means like the objectless samadhi. There's no object. There's nothing, you go into a state where there's nothing really whatsoever. So samadhi is just a general idea of the mind being one-pointed, being unified, being still. That's what samadhi basically means. It's a general term for all states of stillness, all states of peace, all states where the mind is unified. That's samadhi. Jhana is a specific type of stillness, the 4 types of stillness that are part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, next question. Yoga gives rise to a sense of peace and relaxation for the body. Is this considered as a sensual pleasure? Is this counterproductive along the spiritual path? Please comment. Thank you, Ajahn. Yoga is fine. You can do yoga if you like it. And again, remember that when anything gives rise to good states of peace and relaxation, then it is a good thing to do. So please do yoga. Sometimes people ask me, is it okay to listen to music? As a lay person, sure it's okay to listen to music. But if you want to listen to music, try to do that too in a wise way, right? Imagine you're coming back home after a long week or a long day at work, you're stressed out and you are restless and feeling tired, and you put on some nice and quiet music that allows you to calm down a little bit, right? That is using sensual pleasures in a way which moves you in the right direction. And this is the idea of lay life. Don't, as I said before, don't kind of cut out all the sensual pleasures and think that this is going to lead to your happiness. It isn't. Sometimes if you use sensual pleasures wisely in this way, it will lead you in the right direction. Don't put on some kind of heavy metal music, right? Because then you will feel really stressed out afterwards. Put on something nice and peaceful that makes you feel relaxed. Some Buddhist chanting or some of these. I know you have this very nice people who chant the Metta Sutta here in Malaysia. What's the name of that lady who chants the Metta Sutta? Right, okay, yeah. So very beautiful, right? Listen to something like that. It reminds you of metta, it reminds you of good qualities, and it makes you feel peaceful at the same time. This is kind of using sense pleasures in a wise way, rather than actually just cutting it off. So always ask yourself, where is it leading? What does it give rise to? And then you're okay. Of course, if you get too attached to that music, then it can be problematic. But if you just use it for relaxing, it's fine. Okay, it's 2:05, okay? We'll come to the last question, so it should be okay. If I miss my plane, I'm sure it'll be alright. You just let me know my time when I have to go, otherwise I'm in trouble. Okay, dear Ajahn, in the Sutta of removing resentment, I see that the teaching is about attending and focusing on the good qualities of the person and disregarding the bad qualities. But in the work environment, in a marriage, or in any close relationship, it is good to see only the good qualities. How about rectifying or improving bad qualities? Instead of just pushing aside the algae and water plants and drinking the water of the pond, why not help to pull out and remove all algae and water plants and render it more pure? Okay? I would recommend that before you pull out the algae and water plant in other people, pull out your own algae first of all. Because usually there is enough room to improve ourselves, right? So start by improving yourself. Start by changing yourself. And then you have a little bit of authority in helping other people. One of the marvelous qualities of living with a teacher like Ajahn is that he never really complains about you. He never says bad things about you. He never points out and says, you have done something wrong, you need to change. Unless you do something really, really bad, like breaking a precept. Of course, something has to be done. But generally speaking, he doesn't say anything to you. What he does, he encourages you by being kind, by being compassionate, to sort yourself out, to find your own problems. This, I think, is one of the most important things in life, to be able to open up yourself to your own defilements and your own problems. You need a sense of security, right? That security comes if other people are kind to you. When other people are kind and compassionate to you, you feel at ease, you feel relaxed, and you feel able to take up the challenge of looking at your own problems and understanding yourself. So kindness is much more important towards others than pointing out other people's faults. So I'm not saying this is always the case. Maybe there are times when pointing out the faults can be right. But generally speaking, it's something that you should avoid, I think, as much as possible. It creates friction, it creates problems, it creates people getting defensive, not really wanting to listen to you. Kindness is much, much more powerful. If you are generally a kind person, and you very, very occasionally point out a fault, then the person is likely to listen, because they know that you're coming from kindness, right? They know that you're doing this because you want them well. You're not doing it because you want to control them or push them around, but actually you're doing it because you really wish the person well. So be kind, and then you have a lot more moral authority when you want to tell somebody off, or you want to help them out to resolve an issue. Okay, second question, the last one for this retreat. In the Sutta of Born for Those Who Are Dear, the Buddha repeatedly says that sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, and rise from those who are dear. Does it also mean that the opposite is true, which means that to be free from sorrow, grief, etc., one must not have anyone who is dear? Remember that dear here, when it says dear in this way, what it means is basically attachment, right? And of course, you can have people who are dear to you in a different way. You can have metta towards someone. The Buddha, in a sense, had compassion, metta for all of us. That's why he taught the Dhamma for 45 years. But he wasn't attached to us, right? If someone died, the Buddha wouldn't become sad, because he would understand that is the nature of existence. So there is dearness in a more kind of non-attached sense. There is dearness in an attached sense. So have dearness in a non-attached way. And when you have dearness in a non-attached way, you're also much more able to do what is right towards the people around you. When you're not attached, you can actually see the needs of the people around you rather than having a vested interest in the outcome of the people. If you're attached, you have a vested interest. It means that you want this person to be this way and that way. And once you have that vested interest, you start pushing them around. It means you're looking after yourself and not after the other person. And that is the problem with attachment. You're actually looking after yourself and not so much after the other person. When there's no attachment, only then are you really looking after the other one. Okay? So, last question finished? So,
we've come to the end of Sutta workshop. What a wonderful weekend, do you think? Yes. I think if we reflect on this very auspicious occasion to have such a great teacher, good monk, able to give him alms today. We learn Sutta, we meditate, we be with good friends. All these are really nice and rare, auspicious blessings. Hopefully we can take this through more than 2 weeks. And something that belongs very nicely in our heart to have this lovely opportunity. I'd like to thank the President, Sri Dr. Vitumi, who invited the Brahmali last year. And they started from last October planning this workshop. And we've done pretty well yesterday, today. Thank you to all of you. Thanks to the organizers. Thanks to all the volunteers behind the scenes. We don't need who we do, but we did a great job keeping this place, preparing this whole event, donors, sponsors, and everybody here and not here who made this happen. Make me very, very happy to see this beautiful event unfold today. And I'd like to say all gratitude to the teacher.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.